Today, we will be spending 30 minutes with Dr. Jessica Zitter. Dr. Jessica Zitter, how are you today?
Very happy to be here.
Great, great. And I have invited you to be here today because you are a part of a documentary. You're the director of a documentary titled The Chaplain and the Doctor, right? I got that in the right order, The Chaplain and the Doctor. And so when I came across that, information, I thought, oh, I've got to speak to at least one of these individuals. And so, Dr. Zitter, thank you for being here today.
So honored to be here with you.
Great, great. And so I do want to just start off, though, or I want to start with asking you as a doctor, how is it that you chose that as, chose medicine as something to pursue? Tell me a little bit about that.
I come from a long line of doctors. My family came over here from Europe in the early 1900s, and everybody immediately kind of chose to be doctors. It was something that was in the blood. They had not been very educated people before, but this was sort of their thing. So we became a family of doctors. My grandfather, my great uncles, my father, my uncles, and aunts. Actually, I have an aunt who's a doctor, and I just was inspired to be a healer and to take care of people.
That is wonderful. Wow. And so how long have you been practicing medicine?
I graduated medical school in 1992. And then I went on to do my residency and my fellowship and became a full-fledged practicing doctor in about 1999. So a long time.
All right. And do you have a specialty? I know today it seems doctors have a specialty usually. So what is yours?
Mine is pulmonary and critical care. So I'm an ICU doctor. And I also do palliative care, which I suspect many of your fellow chaplains have heard of, which is a different kind of healthcare as well.
Yes, yes. And chaplaincy, yeah. There are those that are very familiar with palliative care. All right. But so you have made this film, this documentary, The Chaplain and the Doctor. And now the chaplain who is featured in that is Chaplain Betty Clark. I'm sure you have come across a lot of chaplains during your time of practicing medicine. What is it that kind of were you that connected you with her, or that something kind of sparked with her?
Betty is, I'll tell you, my second mentor in my medical career, and the first one was a nurse and the second one was Betty. And I'll tell you, I was just talking about this morning. These two women are a very unique type of woman. They're very, very confident about their beliefs, and they're very much into speaking their truth. And sometimes in systems like medicine, which are very, very, I hate to say it, but very hierarchical, and doctors sort of rise above nurses and chaplains, which is not at all. And this is what I have really learned over the past 15 years, 20 years of my career, is a totally archaic and brittle system. Sometimes you need people who are really going to speak their mind and speak their truth. And that is what Betty did with me. She's very, very, she spoke truths that I needed to hear, that I was very uncomfortable hearing at first, but that really stuck with me and made me want to hear more. And very few people in life and in society are comfortable coming out and standing by their principles the way she did. It's a big deal for a chaplain to come in and accuse a doctor of being racist, which was very, very hard for me, and very important. It was very jarring. It was very upsetting. And it also started me thinking about myself as a healer, and about who I wanted to be, and about things that I never questioned before. That was a long answer.
No, but you really said a lot there. That's powerful. And so, and yes, so that brings me to in reading about the documentary, it seems one of the things that will be covered in it is the fact that there are biases in medicine. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're referring to. And I take it you're referring to racial bias, right?
I'm referring to racial bias primarily because we know how Black and brown people are treated in our healthcare system. It is so filled, journals and articles, just you can't even imagine when you start to look into it, the number of academic and research articles that show evidence of bias, racism, injustice, et cetera, in the healthcare system. It's very shocking. There's a lot of people doing this research, and there aren't a lot of people, I don't think, reading it or at least taking it really seriously. So racial biases, racial healthcare inequities are a huge public health crisis in this country. But there are lots of other ways that bias can manifest. In a way, I would say there's as many types of bias as there are people to hold it, and each person probably has more than one, more than 10, more than 100 biases in their brain, probably more than 1 million. Every single day, we are walking through the world, looking at people and making judgments about them. That's kind of the way the human brain works. And the problem is when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to a place where one person, i.e. a doctor or a nurse or a chaplain or the person sitting behind the reception desk, has power over another person who is vulnerable, scared, and sick, you've got a big problem.
Mm, mm. And again, my mind is racing because I'm thinking which area, which direction do I want to go in here? Because with bias, I do believe age also can be a factor. I'm thinking about me personally with my mom. She lived to be 98, and but near the end of her life, she was in a skilled nursing facility or senior facility, and I came in one day and the nurse there was saying it seemed they were concerned because like the left side or something of her body that wasn't she wasn't moving it the way it should have been, and wasn't talking, speaking properly, things like that. And so they had her sent to the hospital, and then I followed. But just saying, what happened is that before we left the facility, the nurse was saying, I wonder if maybe she's had a stroke. And so when we get to the hospital and I'm talking to this one doctor and saying, her speech is garbled and, just things don't seem right. And he's like, well, she had dementia. He's like, oh, it's the dementia. And, that's what's happening. And I said, no, I've been with her pretty much every day for the past few weeks. I know she's had dementia, but it's with her body. Things just aren't right. And it's just, I just could not kind of convince him to get her checked out in terms of the stroke or, and long story short is I was talking to a coworker about it maybe a week or so later, and she said, maybe try to get her in with a neurologist. And when I got her the appointment with a neurologist, well, as she had pulled up the records, she said, yeah, it looks like here, she had like a mini stroke or something, but it was just so frustrating. And I just feel like because of her age, her being 98 and, her having the history of dementia, that this doctor just went with that, not even really listening to my concerns of the other things that I was pointing out. So, but would you say to age and it's also.
I could list. First of all, I'm very sorry that happened. That must have felt so invalidating of you and of your mother. And I cannot tell you how much I apologize for that on the behalf of the healthcare system. You're right. There's so many in the film. I mean, there's bias about age. There's bias about ability. Somebody comes in and they have a stutter. There's bias about so ableism is sort of that concept. There's clearly bias against women and misogyny in healthcare. Look, the fact is that hysterectomy is it's about hysteria. Somebody having a uterus is considered hysterical. You can imagine how the healthcare system judges women. there's a case in the film of an elderly Holocaust survivor, a Jewish woman, and the team basically said, "Oh, she has resources, you know." And the truth is, this woman lives on food stamps at home in a very not good neighborhood with no resources at all. And that sort of that stereotype about Jewish people having lots of money and having lots of power is, again, a very dangerous stereotype. And the reason that is included in the film is not because in any way I'm saying Jewish people suffer at the hands of the healthcare system the way Black and brown patients do. Not at all. However, this is really, I'm Jewish, and there's something about seeing bias and prejudice and labeling about your own group, which Betty sees about Black and brown patients, and I see when it's somebody that I relate to, or a woman could see if she sees misogyny, a woman doctor. The thing is that we have to tap into the areas that we can understand of another person's suffering so that we can then become more aware, curious about people, and not label them as much. So I think there's always something in every person and in every healthcare provider that you can tap into that can make you understand how you would want to be treated and make you a little bit more curious and open and compassionate about someone else and less likely to label them.
But Dr. Zitter, we had spoken just a little bit briefly before I started recording and saying how, Betty, being the chaplain, is someone I really should be speaking with. And I do want to speak with Betty, but I'm also glad that I had you here today to talk about things from the medical perspective and from your own perspective as a doctor and the types of things that you've seen and witnessed. So, thank you for sharing those stories. But I do want to talk a little bit more too about the documentary because from my understanding, it premiered earlier this year. Is that correct?
It premiered in April at San Francisco International Film Festival. And as you can imagine, it's a local film. It was filmed in Oakland. And so we packed the theaters. The tickets sold out within a week. And it was actually very upsetting because many people who wanted to see it weren't able to come in and see it. So we're planning to have a bigger, broader theatrical run, and we'll be in many cities. And I hope that people will sign up for our newsletter just so that they can get news about where we're going to be showing the film. And you can go to the chaplainandthedoctor.com to sign up for the newsletter so you can hear where the film will be screening over the next 6 to 8 months. Eventually, we're going to have this on a platform and a streaming service so people will be able to watch it. But for the next year and a half or so, we're really doing paid events. We're going to be doing a national screening tour. As I mentioned, people can follow. We'll probably go to 20 cities or so and have the film there for several days each. And people should, again, follow us on the newsletter so that they can know where that will be. And if people want to have me come and speak, I speak all the time. We have two other films, Extremis and Caregiver, a Love Story as well. And I've spoken for years with those films, and people sometimes have us for special dinners or special events. And we'd be love to do that. And by the way, if you're interested in that, people can just email info@realmedicinemedia.org. And that's REEL medicinemedia.org. And that's a way to sign up to learn more about my speaking.
All right. And so even when you're saying about these paid events, when I was thinking if you were to come to Pittsburgh, that it would be a paid event, like people would pay so much to see the film. But are you referring to something else when you say that?
Yeah, I'm not talking about individual tickets. Right now, we're prioritizing places that have funding. And a lot of times it's, 3 different organizations will pool together, money to bring me to speak. So it's not so much about theaters and ticket selling. It's more about organizations that would like to have me come and speak with the film or screen the film and come to a specific city. And sometimes places have their own, budget for that. And sometimes places will join with other, a church or the healthcare system or an end-of-life organization, and they'll kind of come together to put the funding in place.
I see. All right. Well, I may need to speak a little bit more, or ask you a little bit more about that, after this. But again, I'm just so thankful that you're here. Oh, and I do want to ask too. So, do you see this documentary going on, let's say Netflix, or I was going to say PBS, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
something like.
yeah, our plans, I'll just give you a sense of what our plans are. There's, in distributing a documentary film, there's a whole concept of what's called windowing. Right now, we're in the early stages. We had our premiere and we're doing film festivals. And overlapping with that is starting to schedule these events where people say, come to Pittsburgh. We would love for you to come and screen the film. We would also, or come and I have a keynote talk that's an hour that we can do as well. And we're scheduling those right now. So if people are interested, and then eventually we're going to start moving on to this national theatrical tour where people would come and they would buy tickets and go into a theater. And then we are planning a PBS or some other national broadcast. And then eventually we are planning to get it on a streaming service. But all of that will unfold over the next couple of years.
There's a long process involved, isn't there?
Oh, it took us 8 years to make the film.
With the film having been shown at some already premiered, I understand it's won some awards too. Is that correct?
Yes, we won an award at Woods Hole. We've won several awards, and I'm embarrassed to tell you that I don't actually, they're on our website. So we won a jury award at the Woods Hole Film Festival. We've won, oh boy, this is embarrassing. I should be able to tell you this, but if people want to see the chaplainandthedoctor.com, go to the chaplainandthedoctor.com and you'll see the awards that we've won.
Yeah, but that's great. Where there's so many that you can't remember them all offhand. That is wonderful.
Impact Docs. This is terrible. I'm embarrassed. We DocuFest. We just won a few.
Oh, that's excellent. But you know what? And I will have the website information in the description under the film, or under this interview. Like, there's a description section, and I will make sure to put the website address so that people can go there and get more information. And but this has just been such a wonderful interview. I'm just excited about this documentary. Like, I really want to see this documentary. And like I said, I don't know how we can get it here to Pittsburgh, but
well, just getting a few different organizations together to co-present it is a great way.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to be looking into that. But thank you again for being here. Thank you for the idea, even having the idea to do this film and to get this message out, and how a doctor and a chaplain can actually work as a team and do wonderful things, do great things. So I'm excited about the film. And like I said, definitely want to see how we can screen it here in the Pittsburgh area. And I hope a lot of others out there will want to see this film in their cities, and also look into how you can come to them.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that.
All right.
Such a pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Again, same here. And so God bless you. God bless you to all the listeners out there. Be well, be encouraged, and I hope that you will be here next time to join me to see who I'll be spending 30 minutes with. All right. Take good care, and God bless.